My name is Clayton Downing. I'm superintendent of schools in the Lewisville Independent School District. I'm completing my 24th year with the school district. Been superintendent since 1984. Been very fortunate to serve in many capacities here, so I've seen the school district from many different perspectives. I started out here as a teacher in 1968 and was a teacher the first year Lewisville High School was open. I was an assistant principal in the only middle school that we had back in 1970. Then became a principal in one of our older elementary schools, College Street Elementary, in 1971, and then worked in personnel from 1972 to 1984 when I became superintendent. So having been here 24 years, I've seen the school district change drastically, to say the least. I know in 1968, when I came to the school district, we had just opened Lewisville High School, the first phase of Lewisville High School. This was the 5th school to be built in the school district. The other 4 schools were Central, College Street, Lakeland, and the middle school, which is now J.K. DeLay Middle School. At that time, we had approximately 300 teachers or 300 employees, and we could get together in the cafeteria of one of the schools and have our in-service meetings and visit, and you knew everyone and knew who their kids were, and it was just really an enjoyable time to be here. It's still enjoyable to be here, but it's changed quite a bit. We now have in excess of 2,400 employees. We have, at the present time, 3 high schools, a vocational center, a learning center, 6 middle schools, and 18 elementary schools. We also, at the present time, have under construction 1 elementary school and are about to begin construction on 2 additional elementary schools within the next month. We also have under construction 2 middle schools at the present time. And we plan next year to start another elementary and another middle school. We've grown from the enrollment when I came here in 1968 of 2,600 students to just under 22,000 students this year. And we're anticipating some 1,500 new students next year. It's exciting to be here. It's challenging, to say the least, because we've been one of the fastest growing school districts in the state during the last 10 years. Probably in the top 5 the last 6 years. Why we're growing so fast, of course, I'm a little prejudiced. I think part of it is because we have an outstanding school district, which is evidenced in some of the accomplishments. You look at our SAT scores and our national merit finalists and the various special programs that we offer through our special ed program, our bilingual dyslexia programs and ESL programs, and all the other programs I think are attracting people. Certainly the location to the airport, to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, has also contributed to our growth. But it's an exciting time to be in Lewisville. I tell people as I go out and I discuss what's happening in the school district, that many don't realize that we encompass 130 square miles, that we're the 32nd largest school district in the state of Texas. There are approximately 1,100 school districts, and we're the 32nd largest district in the state. The Lewisville ISD is somewhat unique in the state of Texas in that it's composed of so many different communities. We have all or parts of 10 different communities within our school district. This is confusing to people sometimes, but for instance, I have a school board member who lives in the city of Plano. I have 10 square miles of Plano. I have just about as much of North Carrollton as the Carrollton Farmers Branch School District has of Carrollton, the city of Carrollton. So much of Carrollton is in our school district. Virtually all of the colony is in our school district. Highland Village, virtually all of Flower Mound, all of Lewisville, Copper Canyon, Double Oak, parts of Coppell, parts of Frisco. We're just a very large, spread out, rapidly growing school district. And the forecast is continued growth. I really believe before this school district builds out that we'll have 5, maybe 6 high schools. And certainly we see nothing but growth in the future. This has changed quite a bit from when I came to Lewisville. When I came to Lewisville, we still had somewhat of a rural setting. The country was really the country. I live in Flower Mound now, but at that time, Flower Mound, if you lived in Flower Mound, it had a rural tone to it, that you really lived out in the country, and you probably lived out on a large acreage, and that's changed now. Now we're having literally thousands of homes being built in just Flower Mound, on nice homes, on nice lots, but not the 3 and 5 acre, or not the 100-acre farms anymore. We're becoming a major suburban school district in the state of Texas rather than a rural agrarian community that we were, say, 25, 30 years ago. Whether that's plus or minus, I don't know. I enjoy the smaller setting, and I enjoy the larger setting. I enjoy the group of kids that are coming in, and I enjoy the group of kids that we had back in the 60s. Some traditions have not changed. I know that when I came to Lewisville, I thought it strange at the time that the logo of the Lewisville High School was the Fighting Farmers. I just had never heard. I'd been in high school where we were Eagles. I was at North Texas where I was an Eagle. But a Fighting Farmer I had just never heard of. But once there, being a part of that school for 2 years, it didn't take long to see where the tradition and the rich heritage came from, and those that still attend that school are still very proud of and still not willing to give up the mystique of being a fighting farmer and being a part of Big John heritage. You know, when I came here in 1968, and after I got into administration, I was very, very fortunate to know a couple of gentlemen that meant a great deal to me. One who is now retired and living in Mahia was Mr. Leo Stuver, who was a superintendent for 11 years while I was here, and I considered him my mentor, and I was fortunate enough to work with him and learn a great deal from him. But the second person who I had great admiration for and who led this district through its really formative years and who provided so much of the background and the basis for this district to continue its growth was the gentleman that was superintendent here for many years prior to Mr. Stuver, and that was Mr. J.K. DeLay. The fact that he is honored and revered is evidenced in the fact that we've named one of our schools after him. He was always helpful to me. He's just the kind of person that go out of his way to be very, very helpful, and he is very highly respected as an educator and as just a fine, fine person. A story that I used to hear about him when I first came here, and I thought it was so funny, and I'm sure that he can elaborate more on it, but Lewisville High School, where I taught my first year here in the school district, I thought was an excellent location. But at the time they purchased the land and talked about building it there, I know Mr. DeLay received a lot of criticism and concern of why we were building that high school so far out in the country. And of course, anyone knows anything about our district now knows that it is centrally right in the heart of our school district and is in the hub of all of the action. In fact, it's nearly in downtown now. So that showed a lot of the foresight that he had in knowing what was going to happen in this school district and the direction that the growth was going to go. And I think this school district was very fortunate to have the stability and the leadership that it had for so many years in Mr. J.K. DeLay.
In 1942, I was superintendent of schools down in Palmer in Ellis County. And a gentleman came by and told me that the Lewisville Independent School District was out of a superintendent. The co-chair had resigned the week before school started, and the superintendent had resigned the day school started. And I came to Lewisville. I was on my way to Denton on Saturday to see about some teachers for the place where I was teaching at that time. And I stopped and saw the trustees of the district. I went up and looked at the school and decided that it wasn't for me. We had just finished building a new school down in the community where I was, and the school here was practically dilapidated, don't you see, at that time, and I couldn't see myself getting in a new situation. But my wife and I started home, so we told the board members, that we talked to, that we wouldn't be interested. So on the way home, I told my wife, I said, well, soap and water would help a little bit. So the next day I called and asked if they decided on the superintendent yet, and no, they hadn't. And so I came back up to see about it, and I was invited to come and work with the school district. And I came here on October the 1st, 1942. For 1 month, the school had operated without a superintendent, don't you see. Now, when I came to Lewisville in 1942, there was down here where the DeLay Middle School is now, right across the street there was a sign that said Lewisville City Limits, population 876. And up here where the overpass is, there was another sign that said Lewisville City Limits, 876. And down at the railroad, there was another sign down there, Lewisville City Limits. So you see, Lewisville at that time was a very small area, the city. But there's one thing we want to remember. There was no Flower Mound. There was no Highland Village. There was Colony never had even been thought of. And so all of that area was Lewisville, because this is the center where they did their banking, they did their shopping, and so on and so forth. So all of that area was Lewisville. Now later on, of course, we find that those different locations incorporated, and they became Flower Mound, they became Highland Village, they became the Colony, but that was many years, quite a number of years later. So we were a rural community. Now, I'd like to point this out. I sent one bus across the river over here, where the Colony is now, and I got every kid in the country. And I didn't have too many kids on the bus at that, don't you see. I sent one bus out in this area where Flower Mound is, and I got every kid out there, don't you see. So now then, of course, the Colony has about 6 or 7 or 8 schools overflowing. The same thing is true out in Flower Mound, and Highland Village is another case in point, don't you see. It was a rural community. So many of our kids came off of farms. Now today, I doubt very seriously that Lewisville has many kiddos that come off of a farm, a stock farm or agricultural, agrarian farm, whatever you want to say. In other words, there are not many of them that come off of that. Now then, let's keep this in mind. Lewisville had a population of 876 according to the census rolls of the United States government in 1940. It had a population of 833 10 years earlier, so there hadn't been much growth. But now between 40 and 50, they started building the dam out here, the Lewisville Dam. And people began to move in, and people began to come out of Dallas. And by 1950, the population of Lewisville was 1560, and that's a 73% growth. in 1970, it was, in 1960, it was 3,940. Now that's 142% growth in that time. See. In 1970, it was 9,260, and that's another 140% increase. And in 1980, it was 21 or 2,000, and that's another 100%. And I don't know what the figures are from that time to this time. When I came to Lewisville, there were 18 teachers. We had a budget that year, first year I was here, we had a budget of $35,000. Now that meant pay for 18 teachers, counting myself, in other words, that was a superintendent. We had 2 bus drivers, and we had a janitor, we had our utilities and so on and so forth to pay out of that fund, $35,000. The assessed valuation of the Lewisville district at that time was $765,000. We had a $1 tax rate. So if the tax collector had collected 100% of taxes, we'd have had $7,650 in local money, and half of that had to go for a bond assignment. Let's see. Compare that with today's figures, and you'll see well, it's astronomical, the growth that has occurred since that time. Now, we had one school building down on College Street. As I said, it was the old type school, 2.5 stories. One half was in the ground, don't you see, and 2 up above. And that made, we had everything from the first grade to the seniors. And we had just about 2 acres of land there for them to work on. Of course, as I mentioned a while ago, this was a farming community. It was a center. Now then, this school district, the present school district, now we, back in those days, we covered just about as much territory as they do today. But, now let's go east of here, and what was McCurley, what was Lake, what was Midway, what was Camey, what was Hebron, they were school districts. They were dormant. Now then, and Donald was out west town here. Donald is where Flower Mound is, in Flower Mound School. It was the Donald School. Now then of course there was Double Oak. Now, in 1945, the state legislature passed a law saying that if a school district was dormant for as much as 2 years and did not, in other words, did not have any school at all, they should be added to the nearest contiguous school district territory. And that's what happened when these school districts were added to the Lewisville School District. Now Donald School District out here came in by way of a consolidation election. Now Bethel out here had come in to the Lewisville School District in 1940, 2 years before I came here. Round Grove had come into the Lewisville School District in 1940. That was also 2 years, don't you see. Double Oak was a school district out west of us here, and it's quite an interesting story. But anyway, half of Double Oak came into Lewisville in 1962. Half of Double Oak, and the other half went to Denton. Now the same thing is true over here. Now Hebron School District was east of us over here, and it was in operation the first year or two that I was here, and then they ceased operating, and the children were transferred to Carrollton or to Lewisville. that created a group of people that wanted to come to Lewisville, and a group of people that wanted to go to Carrollton. So we got a committee of interested people, and they drew lines cutting the Hebron district just about in half to Lewisville, half to Carrollton, presented it to the county board, and it was enacted in that manner. So you see, the Lewisville School District now is made up of all of those, about 12 or 13 different districts that were operating. Now, Mr. Tunnell was the superintendent here from about 1917 to about 1928. Mr. Tunnell was a vocational agriculture teacher and superintendent of schools. He was a graduate of A&M College. Along about 1924 or 5, they were seeking a name. Well, it is said that Mr. Tunnell was a strong Aggie fan. Now, the Aggies are the farmers, and that his influence swayed the situation, and they became the farmers, don't you see, and have been the farmers since 1924 or 5, don't you see. And later on, they added the epithet, you know, the fighting, don't you see, the fighting farmers. And that's where it started, about 1924 or 5, don't you see. Our purpose all the time that we were here, our emphasis was on doing everything we could to provide the children with opportunities to develop themselves to the best of their innate abilities, don't you see? And we tried to start each new program, each new thing that came up for the schools. We tried to add that to our curriculum when it was possible. When there was sufficient demand for that, then we tried to add that to the program. And of course, since then, I have been real proud to watch the growth of the school district since then. The growth I'm talking about in academic pursuits and in their curriculum and in their efforts to provide as varied a possibility for children to develop latent abilities, don't you see?
We're changing rapidly, and we don't think we can stop that. And what we think we need to be doing is harnessing that growth and making it work for us. We've attracting very good students. People have been very supportive of our bond programs. I became superintendent in 1984. One of the first challenges I had was to pass a bond election. Became superintendent in October and had a bond election in February. And the people were very supportive. We passed that one in 1985. We turned around again in 1987 and had to have another bond election, and they supported that one. We turned around and had another one in 1992. Most districts in the state of Texas and really in the nation won't have a bond election every 20 or 30 years or every 50 years. And we've had 3 in the last 7 years. And more than likely we'll have a 4th one in 5 or 6 years from now. So the people have been very, very supportive, and when you're having that many bond elections, it indicates really one thing, that you're having tremendous growth. And no one can deny the growth that's occurring in this school district. One of the issues that was raised last year, and we spent 14 months studying it, was the possibility of going to year-round education. We said at the time that we were certainly not adverse to looking at that, and we set up 3 community-based committees to look at that, and Like I say, we spent 14 months studying it. And at the conclusion of the study, we determined several things that went against the criteria that we set at the beginning. One, we said that it had to not hurt and preferably improve our instructional program. Secondly, it had to be cost effective. And thirdly, it had to be supported by our community, by the base, the majority of our communities. When we finished the study, we discovered that we really couldn't show that it enhanced the instructional program. We couldn't show that it really hurt the instructional program, but we really couldn't show that it was going to improve the instructional program. So that was kind of a wash. The Finance Committee, we had some outstanding lay people from the community on that committee, and what they determined was that it was not a cost savings to go to year-round education. At best, it was a wash, that you just shifted. Instead of building buildings, you're spending much more money in operations. You're hiring more personnel, you're running buses 12 months a year, you're operating your food service 12 months a year, you have high utility costs 12 months a year. So there were costs that offset the savings from not having to build as many buildings. And the community support was not there. We had simultaneous hearings one night, 5, throughout our school district. And the preponderance of those people attending those hearings were very much opposed to year-round education. So since we couldn't satisfy the 3 criteria that we set forth when we began, we decided at this time that year-round education was not appropriate for this school district. But we feel very satisfied that we looked at it, studied it hard, and gave it every chance to be successful and to be a part of our program here. I just can't think of a school district in the state of Texas or even in the nation that at this point in time is more exciting to be a part of than the Lewisville Independent School District. We've got wonderful growth. We've got curriculum changes that are taking place every year. We're adding to our program. We have an expansive honors program. We've got an expansive vocational program. We're enlarging our alternative school, our at-risk program. We have enlarged our special education program, our dyslexia program, our gifted and talented program. We're just doing everything we can to meet the needs of all of our kids, and we are emphasizing the academic growth, the honors classes. We were very proud. We just got back a study that compares us to groups of similar size, districts of similar size throughout the state of Texas. And we were very pleased to see that we were significantly higher in the number of kids that we had who were graduating with academic diplomas or academic with honors diplomas. So we think a lot of exciting things are happening. And even though we've gone from the 4 schools in 1967 to 30 schools in 1992 with many more schools under construction now, or we know will be under construction within the next 2 or 3 years, we're still trying our best to maintain the small town atmosphere where every youngster is important, where teachers are real people. They're not Social Security numbers. We do know who they are. We maintain an open door policy in all of the departments. Mine is always open, and we don't want to give up that small town atmosphere. We don't want to give up some of the pluses that you find in rural communities, even though we are now classified as a growing suburban community. We're excited to be here. We hope that other people will come and look at us and also see that it's an exciting place to be in, an exciting school district to be a part of. And we see nothing but bright things in our future.